जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
जिंदा खुदा से दिल जो लगाते तो खूब था।
मुर्दा बुतों से जान, मुर्दा बुतों से जान छुड़ाते तो खूब था।
Right, okay, Manav Saab, if you can do the introduction, please.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Sharjeel Nasir sir from Nottingham. Can you recite the verses of Holy Quran, please?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. My name is Sharjeel Nasir. I'm speaking from Nottingham. The verses recited in front of you will be from Surat Al Imran, chapter 3, verses 104 and 105. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله لكم آياته لعلكم تهتدون ولتكن منكم أمة يدعون إلى الخير ويأمرون بالمعروف وينحون عن المنكر وأولئك هم المفلحون.
Jazakallah. Zishan Nasir sir for translation.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zishan Nasir and I'm talking from Nottingham. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. The verses that have been recited before you are from Surah Ali Imran 104 to 105. The translation is as follows: And hold fast altogether to the rope of Allah and be not divided, and remember the favor of Allah which He bestowed upon you when you were enemies, and He untied your hearts in love so that by His grace you became as brothers, and you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it. Thus does Allah explain to you His commandments that you may be guided. And let there always be among you a body of men who should invite to goodness and enjoin virtue and forbid evil, and it is they who shall prosper. Jazakallah.
Okay, Jazakallah, and very appropriate verses again. Right, so today we're going to be doing how to do Tabligh in this Christian country in the present times that we're facing, all the difficulties that we have got. So I'm going to do a little talk, and then again we'll open it up for comments, question answers, or whatever. Right, so as I said, we are living in a Christian country, and it's very important that we try to do Tabligh as best as we can. But of course, when we look at the people in this country, we see that many of them have moved far away from religion. And the reason for that is that they are chasing the materialism, the worldly pursuits, instead of chasing after Allah. Now that means that by preaching in this country, it becomes very difficult, and it's of course naturally far different to preaching in a religious country which likes to talk about religion. In this country, many people, they have a very poor impression of religion. And that is why they are not really wanting to talk about religion or practice it. Now, society in itself has changed dramatically over the last century, especially in the 60s, when many of our old values and high ideals have been discarded in favor of a new, free and classless society. But we also see that the power and the hold of the church has declined. This has all led to now seeing a society which is morally corrupt and spiritually depraved. Now, although there has been a great decline in the numbers who have attended the Christian church, still I believe that deep down there is that belief. It's just been moved to one side in pursuit of the worldly attractions. The values have changed, and unfortunately the church has also changed as it tries to please the modern day society and for their own particular social and financial welfare. Now what this has caused is resentment that some people have towards the church, and it's also given freedom to others who don't feel that there is a need to be a religious church-going person. But sadly, this has all resulted in a new generation not really having any strong association with the church or any real understandings of its teachings. So whilst they may be calling themselves Christians, for a lot of people that is really just lip service and it's not a practice. So in this country, there are two things which the people tend to try to avoid to discuss because it creates too many arguments, and that is religion and politics. So you should bear this in mind. If you go straight into religion, then for some people that will quickly put them off, unless of course they are religious, otherwise they will not want to talk about religion. Now whilst, as I said, the people may not be religious, they're still seeking something. There is a vacuum in them. Unfortunately, they blame religion for many of today's problems, the wars, the sufferings, the crimes, the breakup of families, etc. But the real problem is it all stems from this lack of God realization, that people have become very materialistic, living only for today and running after the pleasures, etc. And it has resulted in no real peace because there's that constant urge that I want more. You can't get peace when you want more. Peace comes when you're very happy with what you've got. So they blame God for this. And of course, they feel that God is not with them. And they feel also that the scientists, they have proven that there is no God. And this justifies the not really wanting to be religious. So it's all resulted in a lack of true belief in a living God. Therefore, with the absence of God, man has turned to other things to try and find the peace he craves for. We see the alcohol, the drugs, the pleasures, anything like this. Because being in the material world, it means that you must have everything now. And he won't wait till the supposed hereafter. But without God, the man's instinct of greed, hate, jealousy will come to the fore. And this is why we need to go through to them, get through to them that God does actually exist. He does talk to man, and he does help us. And that the only way to get true inner peace is to develop one's relationship with God. So the problem is how do we convey the message to them? So as I said, first of all, you need to find out whether the people are religious or not, because it affects, as I said, how do you go? If you start speaking about religion and they're not religious, they're not going to listen to you. So there's a different approach, I feel, to one who is religious and one who isn't religious. So this is what I try and find out. First of all, I try to chat with them and see whether there is any signs of being religious or not. So therefore, upon meeting a person for the first time, try to develop a friendship with them. Talk about many things, but most importantly, listen to them and look for opportunities where you can see, where you can start talking about religion. Because at the end of the day, the message of Islam, alhamdulillah, is very, very strong. And it will attract those true seekers. But if your example is not correct, then that can easily put them off. Now, I found that there are two methods which is ideal for everyone. I don't know anyone who can't do these methods. The first, as you can see, is the example. And I always quote the example of Hazrat Abu Bakr. We know that when the Holy Prophet Muhammad was first called to be a messenger, so Hazrat Abu Bakr wasn't there at that time. He was away. And so when he came back, people started saying that you're a friend, he's gone mad. He's claiming to be a prophet from God. And so it's related that Abu Bakr went straight up to the Holy Prophet Muhammad and asked him directly, is it true? Do you claim to be a prophet from Allah or not? Now, of course, the Holy Prophet grew up with the Holy Abu Bakr. He was his close and best friend. He didn't want to lose him. So he felt that I need to explain why I'm calling myself a prophet from Allah. But as soon as he started doing this, Abu Bakr stopped him and said, no, just tell me, yes or no, do you claim to be a prophet from Allah or not? Again, the Holy Prophet tried to explain to him. But again, he stopped him and said, no, just tell me, do you claim to be a prophet, yes or no? Now the Holy Prophet had no choice but to say, yes, I claim to be a prophet from Allah. And there and then it's related that Abu Bakr accepted him straight away. The reason being is that Abu Bakr grew up with the Holy Prophet. He knew that this was a person who was known to always tell the truth. He had this title, Al-Amin, the truthful one. And so he also knew that he had an intense love for God, that he would go for days to the cave and pray to the one God. So how can he now be possibly lying about the thing he loves the most? So it's the example of the Holy Prophet, and only the example that drew him, Abu Bakr, to Islam. So if your example is good enough, that will attract people to you, and every one of you should be displaying the best example. The second method is prayers. And again, I use the example of Hazrat Umar, and you know the story, that he was going to kill the Holy Prophet. He was a leader, he had enough, I'm going to kill him myself. Forget about the other leaders, they're weak, I'm going to kill the Holy Prophet. And so he set off with a sword in his hand, ready to kill the Holy Prophet. A Muslim saw him, saw the anger in his face, the sword in his hand, and asked him, where are you going? And he said boldly, I'm going to kill the Holy Prophet. And so that Muslim said, look at your own family first. Your own sister and sister-in-law are Muslims. He was shocked. How can this be? And so he went there and then to see his sister, barged through the door and found them reciting the Holy Quran. He was so upset, it's related that he went to hit his brother-in-law, but his sister got in the way and he hit his sister by mistake. When he saw the blood coming from his sister's face, then he felt remorse. And to make up, he said, let me hear some of the Holy Quran. Now, this is an amazing bit for me, because here, the sister, we know in those days, women had no rights, no say. But the sister said, no, you're unclean. You go and have a bath. And only if you have a bath, then will we recite the Holy Quran. And what that did was it allowed Umar to cool down. So when he come down, he was a far different person than when he went up. And then he listened to the Holy Quran and straight away he accepted. At that point, one person who was hiding said that only the day before, the Holy Prophet had prayed for Umar or Amir, Abu Jahl, to become Muslims. So it was the prayer of the Holy Prophet that convinced Umar to become a Muslim. And again, every one of you, who isn't praying? We should be praying. So this is something which every single one of you can be doing, setting a good example and doing the prayers. Now, for me, the best example of preaching to the English people was the late Dr. Hamid Khan and his wife of Hartlepool Jamaat, the Jamaat where I'm at now. Because what he did was he created an English Jamaat. And within a period of 5 years, they were able to convert over 30 English people. Now, the secret of their success was through the power of prayer and their example. He was very kind, generous, and humble. And whilst no doubt he had a good knowledge of the Holy Quran and Bible, it was his love and kindness. That was a thing that won the people's minds and hearts. Because he cared greatly for his converts. They were like his own family. And so he created this very good atmosphere. So much so that I used to often take converts there when I was living in Bradford. I'd take converts just to capture that atmosphere. And I remember one of my converts, he said, or he termed what he said was the Ahmadi glow. And that was a term that often stuck with me. Now, Dr. Hamid Khan, he would try to have as many one-to-one meetings as possible. And he would encourage these people to also bring your friends there, and he welcomed them. But of course, the main thing was that all the conversations were in English. And that is something, again, I think is very important for any dialogue, that we must remember who we are addressing. So it's very easy to start talking to your friends in Urdu, even though you've got an English friend there. But bear in mind that if there's someone who doesn't know Urdu, that can become offensive. So always keep it to English. Now, when I talk to people, I want to know what is the best way I can convey the message to them. And so I will normally bring up things which they can identify with and try to bring the conversation on the problems in society today. For instance, I might ask them that are they happy with the direction that the modern society is moving in? I can then move on to ask them about what they feel about TV. Is it influencing too much? All this fake news that certain people are talking about and things like this. And the most important thing is that when you go to these sort of issues, they can identify with it. They like to know about these things. And so what I try and do is first I will ask them and hear their views. And then I will present the Islamic view. Now, the thing is that obviously, because I've heard their views, they're willing to listen to my views. And because I'm a Muslim, they're willing to hear the Islamic views. And obviously, these are things which are very, very important. But alhamdulillah, Islam is very, very concerned about the morality, the bad influence of TV, the respects you give to one's parents in the Muslim homes. And I often quote this, that you can see a Muslim home. You've got the grandfather is there, and the grandfather is still in control. All the youngsters will listen to the grandfather and obey him. That's something which is missing now in the English society. So now I'm in a position where I can look for solutions and seek answers to these problems. And so I can bring the subject directly on religion. Now, as I said, every one of the people have these concerns. And so they're very happy to talk about such things, because as far as they're talking, they're not talking about religion, they're talking about things that affect them. So because I've asked them for their views, then they are happy to listen to my view. And hopefully you can keep them engaged in religion. But again, this is important. You need to watch them and make sure that they are listening to what you're saying. Because if you see that they're getting bored, then change that subject. You can always come back to it later. So Tabligh is a very slow process. And in the beginning, you may have to leave it, meet them again, try again, and so on and so forth. But once you've got them interested, then you can start moving quicker and talk about more direct questions and finally bring it directly onto religion and the Promised Messiah and the Imam Mahdi. Now, I often will ask them that, do you want to know more about Islam? And if they say yes, and most people do say yes, then I tell them about the free Islamic course that I run. Now, I'm mentioning this because every one of you can also do this. This is online. So you can go to this website, you've got all the material there. You can have a one-to-one class with them. Or if you want, just tell them about it and they can come and have the one-to-one class with myself. But it is a very good method for doing Tabligh, because this online course is in fact 12 classes, 12 lessons, and all the subject matter is there in front of you. You don't have to worry about the subject matter. It's there. You just read the subject matter and talk about the subject matter. Now, it depends why the person is doing the course, but generally, if he's really interested, then you've got 12 meetings with this person, and usually that will result in a bayat. So you can do this in a mosque. You can, if you want, I can send you the stuff, but it's all online, so it becomes quite easy for you to do this. I also give out certified certificates and transcript. If I'm having a one-to-one, I will print it out myself and laminate it, but I can send you the certificate if you want, or you can just print it out yourself. Now, the other website that I run, of course, is the YMD, and this is very good for references. So again, if you want to know how to do Tabligh, you want to know references, please go to these sort of websites. Now, I talked about people who are not really religious, but then of course there are others who are religious. And so you don't have to go through this process, you can go straight away to religion. But the problem is with the Christians especially, is because of the high position that they put Jesus in, then why should they accept the Holy Prophet? They may say that, yes, they believe in the Holy Prophet, but they still think that Jesus is above the Holy Prophet. And so therefore you really got no choice. You've got to go to them and explain to them that no, actually it's the other way around, that Jesus is a subordinate to the Holy Prophet, not the other way. And so therefore you've got to start going into this. And of course, I always feel that the main thing is about the death of Jesus. The whole reason for this is because all of the Christian beliefs are around this, about whether Jesus died for the sins of man. And so if you can prove that Jesus did not die on the cross, then all the beliefs like salvation, redemption, atonement, etc. will go on the wayside. It all falls apart. But for those that are not so religious, then this also becomes an eye-opener for them. And I know for myself, it was a wonderful thing. It ticked all the boxes, and it made sense. It was logical, and it answered many of the questions that I had. And so you will find that people who are genuine, they will respond to it. Of course, for a diehard Christian, he is like a Muslim diehard, and will try not to answer the question. Instead, they'll try to put other questions, maybe asking you about Islam and things like that. So you need to keep to the subject and remain firm. Don't allow yourself to be distracted. If they go off the subject, keep bringing them back until you've got your point through. Now, the other problem, of course, is, say, the status of Jesus, and they've made the Godhead of Jesus. Now, you need to bear in mind that there are two types of Christians. There's the Catholics, and they believe in the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. But then there's the Protestants. I was a Protestant, and they believe in the Son of God. Now, when I first came to the Jamaat, I was shocked when they started telling me that Jesus is God. This is not a Protestant belief. It's not stressed upon by the church. And so you need to understand this. Now, yes, when I started looking deep, then I understood, well, actually, I do tend to pray to Jesus or pray and seek forgiveness from Jesus. So I am putting him on the same level, or even higher than God. And so it is, in fact, making him a God. But generally, when you ask Protestants that you believe Jesus is a God, they will deny it and say, no, this is not it. So you've got to make them think about why you think that Jesus is being made a God. And like I say, you need to stress on who they're praying to and who they're seeking forgiveness to. And if you do that, then that gives them a better understanding of what you're trying to say. But if you just say, like many MDs do, that you believe Jesus is God, then they will deny it and say, no, this is not the case. Another issue, of course, is St. Paul. We've gone through this in the Tabligh classes and what influence he had on Christianity. And again, this is something a lot of Christians don't really understand. So I try to get through to them that actually Christianity is all about Paul. It's his teachings. And he's just used Jesus as a figurehead. Now, again, this needs a bit of explaining, and I covered this in our classes. But they need to know and understand who is the true Jesus. But you've got to be careful because, you know, if you destroy someone's faith and don't give them something else to believe in, then what will happen is that you will make them an atheist. So you need to explain the Islamic point of view as well. So what I tend to try to do is try to make them understand that who are you actually following? You often quote that Jesus is the way. Are you following Jesus' way? Or are you following Paul's way? And so I try to get them to look at the teachings of Jesus and compare it to the teachings of Paul. And explain to them that actually I, as a Muslim, am a better follower of Jesus Christ now in Islam than I could ever be in Christianity, because now I'm following the real Jesus. And so get them to understand that Jesus, he was a true prophet of Allah. And he was always ready to worship the one God and to follow the true teachings of that one God. So he was following the law. And so therefore, once you've got this understanding, then you can get through to them that as Jesus was a reformer for the Jews, so the Messiah has now come as a reformer for the Muslims. And that will help them to understand also about who you are and what you're trying to do. Now, as I said, the best tabligh is always one-to-one. But in this day and age, with this social distancing and things like that, that's come to a dramatic stop. If you can still do it, then alhamdulillah. But now, of course, the new laws are only 6 people can meet, so it becomes very difficult. So, whilst it is difficult at present, no doubt, there are other ways. And so the first way is, of course, social media. What we're doing at the moment, this is an excellent way. And mashallah, I'm very pleased when I keep all these messages from the Midlands that you're very, very active. Now, I've got one example here of one meeting, but I don't know how many meetings you've had over the last 4 months. But alhamdulillah, through social media, you can reach so many people, even if they don't come. Still, the message has gone out. And this is why Hazrat is constantly urging us to use the social media, but use it properly. So this is an excellent way, and mashallah, I think you are doing this very, very well. The other way, of course, is public awareness. This is very, very important, the charity work, because what this does is it creates a very good impression, an impression which people don't normally have about Muslims. And so they see that our particular group, we're very peaceful, very loving Muslims. Now, again, mashallah, recently we've had this Amir who has been doing this cleaning up campaign, created a lot of image through the Twitter and the Facebook and things like that. A lot of people responded to that. A very easy thing, but it creates such a wonderful message. And he was able to quote even the Holy Prophet and get that message across. Up here in Hartlepool, we've been giving 2,000 meals to the homeless every week. We get them there and working hand in hand with the church. And again, this has created a good image. People have responded to that. From this, we had radio, we've had TV, we've had a lot of people coming and asking about this particular work. So through social media, it is a great way to try to get the message across. Now, again, Twitter, Facebook, not things that I personally use because I've got so many other things I'm doing at the moment. But here's a typical example, the Twitter trend, an easy way, again, very easy way in which you can convey the message to the people. So there are many simple ways which all of you can be doing, and using the online experience these days is one of the easiest ways for you. Now, what this does is it creates an interest, but of course, with any interest, follow-up is vital. Whether it's on Twitter or whatever it is, invite them to your meetings. But not just invite them into the meetings, try to develop that close friendships with them. This is very, very important, because the more you do that, then the more likely that they will attend your meetings. But you also need to integrate. You need to attend their meetings. That's difficult these days, but maybe online. If we're doing these meetings, maybe others are also doing these online meetings. But certainly when things become a bit more easier, we need to integrate more. We need to attend their meetings. And if we do that, they're more willing to come and invite to yours. Now, this does have effect, believe me. People notice this, that, oh, you always invite me to your meetings. You never come to my meetings. So have it level around that they're talking about that. I remember one time we had this question raised in Hartlepool Mosque that people were saying, oh, you never come to anybody else's meetings. Unfortunately, we do. And so the people in the audience themselves stood up and said, no, they've been to my meetings. This is not right. And that's what you want. You want people to be supporting you. So there are many ways we can do Tabligh, but the most important thing is to keep praying for the people and pray to Allah to open up ways in which you can convey the message. And if you do that, inshallah, you will get more and more results. So may Allah enable us to spread his beautiful message to the people and open up their hearts to accept this message. Okay, that's, I've just seen, take me half an hour. I'm sorry about that. But now let's open it up for anybody who wants to make comments. Maybe they've asked some questions, or the ball's in your court now anyway.
Jazakallah Murabbi Sahib, that was a really nice talk. I've received a couple of questions here from the participants. So the first question is, if I am a student, Ahmadi Muslim, how can I start to speak to my fellow students about Islam Ahmadiyya? There's a similar one. It says, how can I start to tell my work colleagues at work that I am Ahmadi Muslim?
Right, well, as I said, I explained, build up friendships. That's the most important thing. As a student, as a work colleague, build up friendships. Talk about many different things and see the interests that they have. But also, through your example, they should know that you are a religious person. So whether they believe in God or not, whether they believe in religion or not, they should know that you are a religious person. And as I said, you can talk about many things and bring it on to the subject of religion by posing these sort of questions to them. And normally people don't really have too much of an answer. But once you pose the question, like I say, about TV or this coronavirus, Trump, whatever, you can bring in the Islamic point of view. You don't really need to have a big knowledge yourself. Just know the basics about Islam. But that's how you can build it up. And because they know that you're religious, obviously they expect you to be given the Islamic point of view. Don't put it in their face. Just tell them that, look, you know, our point of view is, in our community, we think that this person's doing this, or this is this coronavirus, we believe, you know, how it's brought the whole world to a stop. Anything, something you can't even see has managed to do this. And this is how we believe in God, that he can give everything, he can take things away. Anything you can bring onto religion. And try to get them to understand that religion is not about hatred, it's not about terrorism. But even if that happens, bring in your point of view. Explain to them that this is not Islam. You know, again, here in Hartlepool, I remember one time recently, I think it was when it happened in New Zealand, when they attacked the mosque in New Zealand, which had nothing to do with our Jamaat. We had so many people bring flowers and were on our side supporting us and things like this. So all these things that's happening, topical things that's happening in the world, you can talk about that. In university, even the subjects that you're doing, you can bring it onto Islam. So just the thing is, in your mind, think about how can I bring the subject onto Islam without directly mentioning Islam. Just bring it in slowly and then say, well, you know, this is what my holy book says. This is what I think, without making them feel that you're preaching to them. That's the real secret of Tabligh, that they shouldn't feel that you're preaching to them. They should feel that you are giving your views. And because you're a Muslim, they're Muslim views. So it is quite easy. Practice makes perfect. Keep trying, and inshallah, you will see that these friends, you're building up the warm friendship, And as the Holy Quran stated at the beginning, very important verse that is, read through that verse. As we said there, build up that warm friendship. Because what happens then is that even if you say something and they are offended by it, because of the friendship, they will keep close tabs with you. But if you don't know each other and you upset them, that's it, you won't see them again. So build up the warm friendships. That is very, very important. Okay, any other question has been raised?
There's a question. It says, what is the best way to start Tabligh? Is it to start speaking about Islam in general, or to start to talk about Ahmadiyya straight away?
I don't know if they've been listening from the beginning, but as I said, first of all, you've got to see what the person's interests are. Are they religious or not? Because there's two different approaches. So, as I said, if you start talking about religion or Ahmadiyya, I mean, understand, most people don't even know about the sects in Islam. When I first looked in Islam, I thought Islam was one. I was shocked to find out so many different sects. So if you start saying my particular sect, that's going to confuse people. But by all means, you need to explain this at some point. They need to understand that you are different to other Muslims, so that they can identify then that what you're saying is different to what the news that they are getting on the TV and so on and so forth. But as I said, if the person is non-religious, bring in subjects which he wants to talk about. And like I say, the society, how we're living. I gave you examples of even your own family life, how that is a close-knit. Because in English families, I'm sure most of you know, these days especially, they're all in different rooms. The children are playing Nintendo or watching TV in their room. The parents are in another room. They can't wait to get their parents into an old people's home and all these sort of things. So if you say, look, you know, very few Muslims go to old people's homes. We like to look after them ourselves. We like to care for them. We like to have food around the same table, share everything, and take an interest in our children, push our children, things like that. These are all things that people can understand, identify with. And that will bring them to thinking more about what good things you're doing. And as I said, even simple things like cleaning the streets, like Amir's doing, or helping the homeless, or just going to your neighbors and saying, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? All has a tremendous effect. So don't think that I've got to have tons of knowledge. I haven't mentioned knowledge once here. I've given you websites in which you can gain that knowledge, but you don't really need to have an intense knowledge to do Tabligh. You need a desire. I remember an example of one person in Pakistan. He was a taxi driver, rickshaw, as you know, in those days. And he said, I can't read. Can you read this newspaper for me? Which was Al-Fazl. And so while he's taking a passenger from one place to another place, that passenger is reading this bit of Al-Fazl for him. He's mostly heard the same story 10, 15 times, but he's just asking each customer comes along. What's it doing is it's making that person hear about the message. And he is not delivering the message. He's asking someone else about that. Now, again, you know, go to our websites, go to the MTA. We have so many good newspapers. Al-Hakam is a wonderful newspaper. And all these things can give you that message. For me, when I first come into Islam, the person who was doing Tabligh to me didn't do Tabligh to me, gave me a book. It was a book, the philosophy and teaching of Islam, that opened my heart and made me want to know more. So we can give books. And another thing was when I started asking about prayers, that person said, I'm praying for you. And that thing, I'm praying for you, I felt, why would this person pray for me? I'm weak, I don't deserve their prayers. So it's a simple thing. Just say to your friends, I'll pray for you. And it has a tremendous effect. So in Tabligh, it can be anything. This is why I always hold it when people say, who converted you? There are many things that can be converting you or drawing you to Islam. We can't be arrogant enough to say, it was me. I'm the one that brought that person to Islam. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes from day one, you're with that person. But generally, it could be anything. Not necessarily you. It could be something they see on TV. It could be something they read or something, who knows? Allah works in mysterious ways. Our job is only to convey the message. It's up to Allah to open up people's hearts. So if you convey that message, then inshallah, it will drive people to you. And this is what the Saifullah Khan once said. That is his example. You know, be like me, Saifullah Khan. And that's what you should be like. So your example is good enough. That itself will attract people to you. So that's what we've got to be thinking of all the time. Don't try and please other people. You know, there's two types of people. There's the leaders and those that are led. Always be the leader. Never be the one that's being led. Let people see you for who you are. And that will draw people to you. Okay, anything else?
There's a question, it says, there are a lot of challenges in the Western country, like alcohol and stuff like that. As an Ahmadi Muslim, how can we fit in the society?
Sorry, I was actually reading the thing. Can you repeat that again? Sorry, I wasn't really concentrating. Can you repeat it again? Because I was just seeing what someone's asking here.
It says that there are a lot of challenges in the Western country, such as alcohol and stuff like that. As an Ahmadi Muslim, how can we fit in the society?
Right. Obviously, if someone has got drink, someone's asking for the course, so I'm just giving them the course thing. Right. So if someone is drinking, then they've got a problem. Now, again, I remember when I first started Islam, I used to be a heavy drinker before Islam, and I gave it up, alhamdulillah, when I became a Muslim. And then initial stages, I went with my friends to the pub, and I became known as the Brivik kid. Now, Brivik is a plain orange drink, and it was unusual in those days for you to go to the pub and have just an orange drink. These days, because if you have more than one drink, you can break the law. So they designate a driver. And so it's quite often now a person won't drink there. But generally, when I was young, that was not the norm. You go to the pub, everyone was drinking. So I used to go there and just have the Brivik. But what I found was that if you're not drinking and you're not getting drunk, you don't like the company. You don't understand why they're laughing and things like that. And so after a little while, I wasn't enjoying that company. And so I moved away from that and didn't bother going back to the pubs again. So what I'm trying to say is that you've got to offer a different type of company. Don't compete with people going to the pub. That's fine. Let them do what they want to do. But with you, make it clear. Either invite them to your homes or go out with them, but don't have drinks with them, and help them to understand that they can have a good time without the necessary of having drinks. Now, as I said in the early beginning, because they've lost that contact with God, that link with God, so there's an emptiness within inside them. So many people turn to drinks, turn to drugs, turn to other things to fill out that emptiness. But of course, that's not going to fulfill it. The only way you're going to fulfill that is to develop that link with God. Now, I usually describe this as like a mother and a baby. That there's an invisible link. You can't see that link. But you take the baby away from the mother and both will be upset. And only will be happy again when they're reunited. So the same with you and God. There's that invisible link. And once you cut that link off, then you're miserable. You don't find real inner peace. So again, explain to your people, your friends, that if you want true inner peace, then the path is this. This is how you develop that peace. You develop your relationship with God. And so offer an alternative to the life as going to the pubs and things like that. But this is also something which you need to understand. And it's something which I often see. When a person converts to Ahmadiyya, to Islam, or whatever, they are changing their lifestyle. They're giving up the drinks, they're giving up the music, they're giving up the parties and things like that. But if you do not replace it with something, then there'll still be an empty vacuum, and they will start going back to that previous life. So this is very important to understand, that when someone converts, you need to keep contact with them, build up the friendship with them. The Tabligh is just the beginning. The Bayat is just the beginning of a long, long journey. You've got to keep meeting them over and over again. And especially for the new converts, you've got to fill in that void. If you do not fill in that void, if you do not keep meeting them and expect them to contact you and not contact them, then slowly, slowly, they're going to go back to the old lifestyle. And if they go back to the old lifestyle, you're going to lose them. So this is what sometimes I go to people and I say, well, when was the last time you saw that new convert? They may say about 3-4 months ago. And by that time, the damage is already done. So it's always important that you keep close contact with all the new contacts and converts, and keep them close with you. I don't know if that's answered the question, because I've rambled on a bit there, but hopefully it has. So is there any other bit, or does Toby want to go on what's gone on the screen here?
Zakalam Rabbi Sab, I think is, I just want to share that as we are coming close to our session, just to let all the Jamaat members, Lajna, Khuddam, Ansar, Atfal, all of us, that we have Tabligh Ashra, and indeed, beautifully, as Rabbi Sabi have just said, that right now we are not allowed for one-to-one seating in our homes. So please, I request everybody, I think this message will come through to your president, wherever you are in the country anyway, that you will get this message. So please pray that we are able to use the social media platform to spread the message of Islam Ahmadiyyat. Jazakallah.
Right, so as Toby's rightly said, I've just seen the time myself, so it's getting near to my prayer time. I don't know about others. So I think we should call it an end there. And again, if people have got any topics they want to discuss, please contact Zaid or Toby and let them know the topics. Sorry? You want to say something, or?
No, that's fine. Sorry.
Okay, so yes, just contact Zaid or Toby and give that suggestion in, and inshallah we'll try and maybe make that one topic next time. So please join me in silent prayers. Okay, Bismillah. I'm sorry, Ameen. Okay, so again, if there's any questions that hasn't been answered, please again give those also to Toby or to Zaid, and we'll try to answer those as well. So Jazakallah, and may Allah bless you all.
Ameen.
Ameen.
Ameen. Jazakallah.
Amin. Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum.